Hi guys, I am Dr. Becky back with another video, and today we are going to be talking about oxalates and what you can look for on your AO scan. So for those that do not know what oxalates are, it's been a pretty big issue for the last few years, especially after COVID. Been seeing a lot of oxalate issues and histamine issues in a lot of the clients that we're seeing in our practice. So how can you use your AO scan to help with this problem? What are some foods to eat? What would you look for as far as the food categories are concerned? So let's just backtrack for a second and let's just talk about where does someone get oxalates from? Well, number one is the diet, which we're going to go over some of those foods. Fungus, such as aspergillus and penicillium, and then candida. We also have the human metabolism as well. So foods that are going to be high in oxalates are going to be things like spinach, beets, chocolate, peanuts, tea, cashews, pecans, almonds, berries, and a couple other things, which we'll get into. So on your foods, if you've watched any of my Solex videos, I have quite a few on food sensitivities. It talks about how you can look at the foods. So like here we've got apricot, avocado, and banana. Those are actually all high histamine foods, which we're not talking about. That was in another video. But again, my mind is already thinking, okay, there's probably some issues with histamine, which means I need to look at the liver. So those would be two things in my thought process that I'm thinking about already, where else I need to look at on the scans. But for today's purposes, we are talking about oxalates. So again, you're going to start looking through these foods. So we have yeast, and I just mentioned yeast and fungus. So in my mind, I'm already thinking, okay, yes, this person may have an oxalate issues. You can see here peanuts came up. That was also in the list. Let's go down a little bit further. And then almonds actually was kind of out of balance here. Aloe vera is going to be good for the gut. Cloves are usually good for parasitic infections. I like the ADP from Biotics Research. So again, you're kind of just looking at what foods are coming up. Are these potential oxalate foods? A lot of these here actually look like gallbladder-friendly foods. Cabbage is sulfur. See if sweet potatoes come up. Nope, didn't come up on this person. Gelatin, on a side note, that's actually it gums up the small intestine, so you definitely want to watch gelatin in a lot of your supplements. Anyway, back to oxalates. So sometimes people think that they're eating super healthy, they're taking all these green drinks, and then they're putting, berries and almonds, almond milk, spinach in these healthy shakes. And actually, for that person, it is extremely deadly. So if somebody is complaining about muscle pain, joint pain, I usually think oxalates. Some external sources of oxalates include ethylene glycol, which is a component of antifreeze. Also keep in mind that vitamin C can be converted to oxalates. So let's go down to some of the yeast and fungal markers and see if those are coming up. So we already know yeast was potentially a problem. So there actually are quite a few markers here for fungus. Yeast was a problem earlier in the scan at the top. Let's see what mold. There's definitely a lot of heavy metals. And we do have some mold markers. So let's go down to what are some of the supplements. So like we want to look for, let me find it up here. We need calcium and magnesium because they're going to bind to oxalates. So I need to go back up to vitamin D right here. We want to make sure that we have enough of that. And then we want to make sure we've got enough calcium and magnesium. think magnesium's in the minerals or heavy metals. See if there's too much mercury here. No, but we've got gold and lead seems to be okay. Okay, so remember calcium and magnesium are going to bind to oxalates. So we definitely want to make sure we are getting enough magnesium. Let's see. I should probably just go through the scan normally, like I normally do. Then I know where everything is. CRP, homocysteine. So already I'm thinking liver. Amino acids don't look too bad. Definitely need stomach acid and pepsin. You can see here from HCl and pepsin. And then calcium actually flagged, although it did optimize. So again, these are just some markers that we want to pay attention to if someone has issues with oxalates. So we already talked about vitamin D, calcium, magnesium. Epsom salt baths also help as well. We want to make sure the person stays hydrated. Make sure you're adding minerals to your water. I like to put my minerals into my reverse osmosis water, add a pinch of ozone, and then I like to wand everything with the terahertz. We also want to make sure that we have the antioxidants such as glutathione, NAC, CoQ10, and B vitamins. So as you can see here, there's quite a few B vitamins that are out of range. Primarily B1 is going to be of concern, and then B6. So B6 actually looks okay, but B1 is potentially an issue. So vitamin B6, magnesium, thiamine deficiency, vitamin B1 are usually going to be increased for oxalate issues. We already talked about some of the foods that have a lot of oxalates in them. Typically your nuts and your seeds. We already talked about almonds. And then one of the other big things to kind of realize is oxalates will bind to heavy metals. So if we go back down here to the heavy metal section, you can see all the items on the right-hand side. Even though a lot of them optimized, I tend to be heavier on the right-hand side because what you're going to start to see is things may optimize, but then it's back again. So when you're looking at things, you really want to look at things in groups and pairs. So rather than go through each individual line item, which is going to drive you crazy, you want to look at things in this whole group or pairing here. Okay. Another area to look at would be the thyroid. The thyroid, we do have calcitonin and reverse T3. So this would be worth exploring a little bit more in body systems. I would do the endocrine system and then scan again in comprehensive. So typically people do really well on carnivore and keto for oxalates, although it's not something that you want to be on for a prolonged amount of time. We also want to make sure that you get enough omega-3s. So your EPA, DHA, you can check that up here in vitamins. We've got EPA. So just some other things to think about. Another big thing you want to remember is you do not want to take high dose vitamin C. Some people are okay with doses between like 500, 1,000, but anything more than that, the vitamin C is going to be used to make oxalates. Fulvic acid is something that's really good. It's a binding agent that's going to help to reduce the oxalate levels in the gut and reduce yeast. So that is something to think about. We do have the Solex Gold from the fulvic acid Solex Gold. So we talked about magnesium, we talked about vitamin B6, we talked about fulvic acid. Something else to kind of think about is oxalates can cause a histamine release. So maybe you're doing a histamine diet, or maybe you watched my video yesterday on is histamine issues actually causing your health issues. And if you're doing a lot of the recommended things and just not getting better, you might want to think oxalates. When estrogen levels are high, mast cells are stimulated to release more histamine. And methylation is what is responsible for breaking down that histamine. Histamine is also involved with not only your immune system, but also your digestive and nervous system. And part of your stomach acid needs to break down histamine. So this stuff that I'm going over currently right now is a lot of the stuff that is in my online AO 200 mentor course. That is part of my bioenergetic certification program, and anyone can take that course. So if you're someone who really wants to dive into connecting the dots and understanding what you're seeing on your scans, because really the AO scan is communicating with you exactly what your body needs. Sometimes that level of communication takes some time to sit down and kind of connect the dots. And that's what I love to do. And that's where all of my education has come in to help people be able to do that. We also want to think about your sympathetic nervous system, cranial nerve number 10, and parasympathetic nervous system, because that's all going to be giving us information in addition to cortisol and looking at the adrenals for how the nervous system is functioning, because stress causes the high cortisol, which then causes high sympathetic tone and low parasympathetic. So if you remember, sympathetic is like, I'm freaking out, a bear is chasing me, your fight or flight. And low parasympathetic tone is going to be your rest and digest, the mode that you should be in when you're eating your food. This alone can create an immune imbalance and increases histamine. This increased histamine can then open up the gut junctions and create what we call leaky gut. So you're always looking at the cause of the cause of the cause, or reverse engineering. So if you're just tackling the histamine and you're just tackling the oxalates and you're not getting anywhere, you have to think about the nervous system: sympathetic, parasympathetic, vagus, cranial nerve number 10, stress, emotions. Okay. We've got lots of Bach and Australian flowers to help with the emotions here in Seppi. You go to Quantum Flowers. The other thing is I already have tons of oxalate Seppi playlists that I've put together already. And again, this is a very crash course on oxalates. You're going to receive way more information in the module oxalates. So this is one of the playlists that I will typically use. If we're dealing with stress in the nervous system, we obviously have AO Mind Sync, and we have Inner Voice, and then we have AO Tune. I love AO Tune. The brain, I usually like doing. Kidneys, I like doing for oxalates as well. And then we also have DNA, RNA, I use quite a bit. And then there's also the spiritual insights. You can scan and see which one comes up for you. So some of the markers that you want to look at are going to be the high oxalate foods that we talked about: Candida, Aspergillus, kidneys, thyroid. Maybe that person has tons of bacteria showing up in that vital. So if you go down to the vital scan, look at the bacteria. I don't typically get concerned with each individual bacteria, but if there is a boatload coming up, then I know. Same thing with parasites. We need stomach acid. And there's quite a bit coming up here in the bacteria. So we definitely need some good bacteria to populate. And then strep, usually when I see that, I think SIBO, oxalates, candida, yeast, fungus. Basically, there's too much dampness in the gut. So what's creating that? Because food is sitting and rotting and fermenting in the gut because of lack of gut motility, and probably low stomach acid and low digestive enzymes. We also want to think about histamine, estrogen, methylation, your liver, your B vitamins, especially 6. We already talked about vitamin D, magnesium, omega-3s, and then we briefly discussed cortisol, vagus, your nervous system, adrenals are just some of the things that you can look at. If you're thinking about homeopathic remedies and maybe you don't want to use the pre-populated playlist, you can go to Homeopathics. And then some of the ones that I will use, we have Kali Sulf. So you can look for Kali Sulf and put this in a playlist. Oh, that's in the cell salts. We'll have to go someplace else. And we've got oxalic acid. We've got lycopodium. We've got Nux Vomica. Kali Sulf is going to be in the cell salts. So right here. So those are all the homeopathic remedies that you could plop into a playlist and, address the issues from a homeopathic standpoint. So hopefully this video helped. I know it's a crash course. It's pretty quick. There's way more information in my university if you'd like to dive deeper and learn more about connecting the dots and how to help yourself with the AO scan. And I will drop the link to that university in the comments in my video. So hopefully this has helped everybody, and I will be back with some more videos. So have a great day.